be live right now. This
Love
is
that.
wonderful. This is wonderful. I'm so excited to see everybody on LinkedIn today. And we have our very own GPG's VP, Cassie Rice. Cassie, want to say hello?
Hello, hello, everybody. I hope it is as beautiful where you are as it is here today. And if it isn't, I am sorry.
Because in North Carolina, it is beautiful. We're experiencing 81-degree weather. So if you are joining us, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about government officials and talking to them. And is it lobbying? Is it advocacy? Is it just friendliness? We're going to break all those down. We're not going to talk about lobbying or advocacy. We're going to tell you more about how to develop, how about this, Cassie, a long-term friendly relationship
Love
with
that.
government officials. What do you think?
Love that. I think that's great. And government officials are some folks think that they are can be an enigma. And we are here to break all that down for you.
That's right. And Cassie, share your background, if you would, please.
Sure, sure. I was raised in a very political household growing up. I come from a long line of very strong women activists. And I started working on campaigns, political campaigns, local campaigns early in high school and in college. And then after college, I worked on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress who represents my area in North Carolina. And I worked for him for almost 10 years and worked in his campaign office, his Washington, D.C. office, and in his district office. So I have seen the different levels of and the different ways a congressional office interacts with the public, agencies, constituent services, um, things like that.
Yeah. And Cassie, you also have a bit of experience at the state level. Weren't you an intern under our Senate leader, Mark Bass Knight in North Carolina when you were in high
Mm,
school, I think?
That was your other daughter.
About
Um,
so everybody, Cassie Rice is my daughter. A political household. Talk about politics at the dinner table.
We did. We did. And and so I now I'm very involved in local politics in our county, in our state, and I do a lot of work with our state elected officials, our county and statewide and legislative officials.
And so I grew up, and Cassie grew up in my household, being friends with elected officials. And so we do speak from a point of view of being very familiar with their challenges and their opportunities. And also, I personally have registered as a lobbyist in North Carolina to help one of my projects get a state government allocation. And I've also worked on many, many, many capital campaigns that received significant funding from a number of government sources, usually more local government sources. And we're going to touch on those today. And I want to say, Cassie, what did we decide about politics today?
We're not talking about it.
We're not going to talk about politics because we could talk a lot about politics. And
Mhm.
we have a lot to say about it. But today we want to encourage everybody to understand how to reach out. And what are we going to do, Cassie? Develop what?
Friendly relationships with your government officials at every level. Amazing.
That's right. And so let's just think about all the kinds of funding that goes to nonprofits in terms of setting the context. Um, gosh, a lot of the capital campaigns that I've worked on have gotten significant money from the county commissioners, significant funding from hotel and meals tax bodies that grant out funding for local government projects. Cassie, I might have told you this story about I was doing a feasibility study for a project in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was chatting with the mayor, and he
Mhm.
said to me, Gail, if this project needs a $500 million grant from the city government, there are lots of places I can hide 100,000 a year in the city budget. And I almost fell out of my chair because he maybe he was showing off. I don't know, but the fact is that the government budgets are fairly large. Wouldn't you agree, Cassie?
I would. I would. They're large and complex, and each, I have found that each there are budgets within each layer of government. So there's a county budget, there is a school district budget, there is a town budget. There are so many different layers of funding where you can A, get really, sometimes get very lost, and B, find yourself and find, be able to allocate a lot of dollars for your specific project or your organization.
And the opioid settlement money is coming to all the states, and I think it's a stream of funding over a number of years. And so, if you know any of your county commissioners, they are allocating this opioid settlement money. And I've also found that the ABC boards in North Carolina, alcohol is controlled by what we call an ABC board, and the taxes are managed by these people appointed on the board, and they're allocated out to various nonprofits for stop alcohol and stop substance abuse programs. Cassie?
That's right. And so there's lots of different ways that you can look for funding. And Gail, I think that there's a great way to, this is probably a great time to delve into the different types of funding.
That's right. That's right. And it's my understanding that members of Congress right now, and Cassie, maybe you know this, can now request funding directly for a local government or a nonprofit for a specific project that generally would have been left to federal agencies' discretion. I pulled that piece of information, factoid, from the Chronicle of Philanthropy recently, and that's also very interesting. So we've got elected officials who are very powerful,
Mhm.
right? Very powerful. And they're vast sums of money at all levels going to our favorite nonprofits. And you are probably recipient of some of that money. So Cassie, what do we need to know? Why would elected officials really want to hear from our nonprofit constituents?
Well, first, most of our nonprofit, I'm sorry, most of our elected officials are want to know what's happening in their district. They really want to know what events are going on, what your initiatives are, who you're doing outreach to in the community. Um, the elected officials who represent you at all levels of government find that knowing what is happening can really help them connect you with other organizations who might be doing the same thing, and they can government officials can then also help and advocate for you around your community as well. Gail, can you think of other options?
No, it's I think so often nonprofits hold themselves so small, and they
Mhm.
go, "Oh my gosh, my state senator does not want to hear from me. My state senator is on the other side of my political point of view. How do I talk to this person? How do I develop a friendly relationship with this person?" But we want to say clearly to everyone ever who's ever going to listen to this video that generally, in general, your elected officials want to hear from you because they want to know what's going on. And maybe, Cassie, maybe it's like it makes them feel more powerful to know what's going on, to be in the know. Do you think? Are you frozen, Cassie? Oh dear, I think Cassie's frozen. Um, so I'm going to have to talk instead of Cassie. Are you frozen? Does anybody know for sure? Or maybe I'm frozen. Um, But I want to talk a bit now about how to reach out to government officials, and I want to tell a story. Let me check the Slack. Let me check our back channel to see what's going on with whether I think Cassie's just left. Okay, so um, Cassie was frozen, so I'm going to go on. So excuse me, everybody. So let me tell you a few stories. I was helping what Cassie, you were frozen for a while. Did we lose your internet?
Yes, I lost it and I'm back. I apologize.
That's great. That's great. I was just getting ready to tell a story about the Cape Fear Botanical Garden. And we were on a capital campaign to raise 12 million for a new visitor center. And this new visitor center was a facility that the city fathers and mothers and county fathers and mothers, everybody in the whole region really wanted to have this facility because they needed an attractive meeting space. They didn't want to have to go to the local armory because Fayetteville, North Carolina is a military base and it's very oriented toward the military. So what we did on the campaign committee, Cassie, you might have heard this story. We created a government relations committee of two former mayors and the current mayor's top fundraiser. And these guys were on it. They knew who the decision makers were for each year of the budgets, where the money was in the different committees and who controlled each committee. They knew the timing, the decision maker, and the amounts of money available. And let me just tell you that that project was significantly successful in its government, seeking funding from government sources. Have you run into situations like that, Cassie?
You know, I have not specifically, um, just because when I was working for my member of Congress, we kept all of our funding at the federal level, and we didn't talk about the local budgets.
Well, tell us about members of Congress. And
Mhm.
give us some war stories if you want to. Like, what's it like? You were the gatekeeper for a member of Congress, right?
I was, yes, I was. It was a very strong job. I was very lucky. My old boss um valued hearing from his constituents and meeting with different groups. And we would keep a list of folks who had called and requested a meeting with him. And we would, fit those meetings in as his schedule allowed. And those were just people who were his constituents who called and said, I really want to talk to the congressman about X, Y, and Z issue, and this is why. And we would schedule a meeting with them. Um, and so I was very lucky because my boss really valued meeting with his constituents. And it has been my experience also that local elected officials extremely value listening to their and hearing from their constituents as well. What do you think, Gail?
Yeah, well, we're going to hear it from us again. They want to know what's going on. It makes them feel
Mhm.
powerful, and they can help you if they know what's going on. So
Mhm.
don't hold yourself small. Don't hold back because Cassie, I'm going to tell another quick story. There was a presentation to our local AFP chapter once, and the head of the largest foundation in North Carolina said to all the fundraisers in the audience, and he said, "Don't hold back." Because if you are not, he said, you need to be cheerfully aggressive with us
Mhm.
because if you are not bringing your story forward, then who's going to do it? So you almost have a responsibility to
You
bring
do.
the story forward. And Cassie, this is not lobbying or advocacy, is
No.
it?
No, it is telling your elected official and showing them what's going on in their community and what's important to you. It can it some there is a push and pull between advocacy and politics. I don't think that ever really goes away from the room. If you show up and talk to your elected official in a way, this is what we're doing. This is why it's so important to the community. This is our organization is doing X, Y, and Z for your constituents, then they want to know about it.
Hmm. And so, Cassie, how do we reach out? Do we say, would you like to know? Maybe the mayor might like to know about the local nonprofit doing such and such. But what do you say to the congressman or
to the
woman?
Congress to the congressperson or to your state legislative officials. I would say, it's important for you to understand how our organization affects your constituents. we would like to meet with you. A lot of folks say, have asked me, how do I even get in the room with them? And so that's what I tell everybody is call their office and say, who schedules this elected official for this area? So for my old boss, I would schedule him for his time in North Carolina. And so, and then he also had a scheduler in his DC office. So there's a lot of power in picking up the phone and asking a question.
Absolutely. I love that. And I'm going to tell another quick story. I was the head fundraiser for the Keenan Flagler Business School here at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And we were raising money for a new building. And we were not supposed to be lobbying because the university system had its own lobbyist. But I was raised in a family that did politics for fun, and knew I was familiar with the political process. And so I reached out to our local state representative's office and said, "Would you like to meet the dean of the business school?" And they pounced. They were thrilled to meet the dean of the business. And I said, "Would you like?" I used a permission. We teach permission a lot. And the legislator, we ended up having lunch, and legislator said, he said he was so grateful that we reached out because he wants to know what's going on in his district. Have you heard
Mhm.
that before, Cassie?
Yes, and we would hear from when I was working for the congressman, we would hear from organizations who had a lot of, who were heavily affected by what was happening at the federal level. And the congressman wanted to know so that he could take that information back to DC and he could tell his colleagues about it. And he could say, in my district, this is happening with these types of organizations. Um,
All right, let's deal with the elephant in the room, Cassie. What if
okay.
your federal funding is on the chopping block and as at risk, and your local representative is a member of the other party, the party that is the Republicans that are sweeping through with the cuts? What is the appropriate response, and what kind of response are we going to get when we reach out, do you think? Do we have to be friendlier? Do we have to be softer? Do we have to be more aggressive? I don't.
I, you know, I think it depends on the relationship that your organization has with that elected member, already. If you find that your member of Congress won't meet with you, or will not respond, or says I believe in these cuts and this is something that needs to happen, I would go to the state level and start talking to the people at the state level and say, how are these cuts going to affect my community or my town or my organization? And go, there are agencies at the state level that you can talk to. You have your elected representatives in a legislature. And then I would go to the county level and say, how are these cuts going to affect me, and how are they going to affect my organization? And your county commissioners want to be able to answer that. The county commissioners, they want to be able to say to organizations, this is how you could be impacted, and this is what I'm going to do to help you succeed in the long run. I don't know an elected official who gets who becomes an elected official because they don't want to help. And if you live in their district, if you live in their county, if you are a constituent, no matter the political party, they will help you. They are supposed to help you. It is because they represent you. And I would hold them accountable to that standard, as a way to say, I matter, my organization matters, these people who we help matter, and this is how I'm going to hold you accountable.
And I don't think any elected official wants to know that children are starving in their district
No.
because the votes that they made. or the children don't have shoes or coats, or the elderly Meals on Wheels, they're not
Mhm.
getting, I mean, people don't want to hear about that, especially
Nope.
locally. And let me tell everybody, this is a hot tip, and you can take this to the bank, everybody. You have a constituency in your organization, and it's called voters. And so your elected officials love getting good press from you to your constituency because they know that everybody votes. And another
Mhm.
quick story, Cassie, I was part of a capital campaign for a new museum down on the coast of North Carolina. And the head of the state senate, the head of the appropriations committee, had a beach cottage down there, and he had a lot of power of the purse because he controlled what was going to be coming up to be voted on for appropriations. And we did our research to find this, and so we asked him to speak at this big event celebrating this was a donor appreciation event, an announcement of the capital campaign. We gave our local elected official the mic, and we said, you only have 2 minutes, because the elected officials, what will they do when they have a mic, Cassie?
Keep going.
They'll keep going. And by the way, our number one rule for dealing with this, any kind of speaker who will not shut up, is to be sure you have an MC. And the MC can gently walk up beside him and take the mic. But this guy, he stood up there and listen, they're going to take credit for your project, and they're going to take credit for your project success. Would you agree, Cassie?
They will, and they also want to stand up in front of a group of people who they don't have access to, or they might not get in front of very often, and say, "Ha, I did this. Yes, yes, I did this."
We had the mayor of Raleigh. We had a big opening of this great big museum that we had worked so hard to get funded. I mean, we raised a lot of money very quickly, and it was a very popular project. And the mayor was against it the whole time. And he spoke against it because he was, again, from the other party. But then we had our grand opening, and Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist guru, came, and it was like this big hoo-ha. And the mayor stood up there and took credit. And I rolled my eyes in the back, and I thought, well, this is the way. So, Cassie, let's shift a little bit from approaching formally a elected official
Mhm.
and an elected official in Congress or in the state or county level. And let's talk about how you can more casually develop friendly relationships, and why should the goal be a friendly relationship with any elected official who has a power of the purse?
Well, if I mean, I feel like the answer is kind of right there. They have the power of the purse, right? I mean, and so you would want to make sure that you're on friendly terms with them. What I tell everybody is make sure you know their staff
Mm.
and make sure you know who is in charge of what on their staff. And make sure that you know who the people are who answer the phone, because they know everything and they will tell you if you are friendly with them. Most people who are government employees cannot accept gifts. In terms of one time I was given a Starbucks gift card for setting up a meeting for the congressman, and I said, I cannot accept this. This is my job. There are very strict rules about that. If A lot of people would send my boss, and this was when I was a young thing, work with my first job, right? They would send my boss or my chief of staff an email talking about how great I was. And so that's a great way to boost the confidence of a young staffer. Um,
Say that again. What happened? I
so
love It's a great strategy, everybody.
So I was helping with something with for a constituent, and the constituent, instead of emailing me and saying thank you, they email or giving me a gift to say thank you for what I had helped them with. They emailed my chief of staff, who was my boss, and then they told the congressman how much they appreciated the work that I did. And that will get you very far, because I I had a
That's
great
different.
I had a great review from my chief from my chief of staff and my congressman. So it was that was a great way to boost up somebody who's working on the front lines.
And we talk a lot about the gatekeeper in major gift
Mhm.
fundraising. And we talk about being so friendly with the gatekeeper that you bring them a daffodil from your garden. You
Mhm.
you know the name of their dog, you know when their vacation is, that kind of friendly relationship.
Mhm.
And everybody, we wouldn't be in fundraising if we weren't going to be charming when we need to be charming. And it's wonderful getting to know people. You're not being fake. It's fun getting to know people. It's fun being nice to people, you know.
It is. And then the connections that at least for me, my in my experience, I was able to build fantastic connections with folks all over the state and all over Washington, and those are still serving me today.
Wow, wow.
So,
So everybody, we want to drive home the point that it's very possible to develop friendly relationships with elected officials at all levels, and you should be doing this anyway, all
mhm.
the time. Invite them to your events. Honor them
Can
at
I
a,
tell a story?
yeah, please.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Another great thing that we would do with the congressman is he would go and do business tours. And we loved for him to be invited to do these business tours in his district because A, it filled up his schedule, and B, he was out meeting people and hearing from people who he didn't have the opportunity to hear from all the time. And it was a great way for him to understand how businesses worked or how organizations worked. So think about how if you have a county commissioner or you have somebody in the legislature who represents you, invite them to come and invite them to meet with your leadership team and tour them around your business. And then even offer the opportunity for the for them to be able to answer questions from employees. Um, and that the amount of benefit that the organization receives from that and the benefit that the elected member receives from that is just twofold. It's a great way to um, create those and maintain those friendly relationships, A, with the staff of the elected official, and B, with the member as well.
absolutely. So everybody, we hope we've given you some confidence today. We hope you have understand why elected officials will be open to hearing from you and would like to know what you are up to. And frankly, if your constituency is getting harmed or by the government cuts, you need to let them know. And a little storytelling is great. Don't you think, Cassie?
Oh, 100%. It's so good. These people who represent you are people as well. They have family members. They can identify with you, even though they feel like they're far away. They're just really just people who care.
So invite them to your events, send them holiday cards, give them the mic at appropriate times, go see them if you're around. And remember, you have a whole lot of voters in your constituency that they would love to have access to.
And make friends with their staff.
Make friends with their staff. Well, Cassie, thank you so much for joining us
Of
today. This
course, thank you
is
for
so
having me.
interesting. So interesting. I'm on the outside of the political world. I'm just trying to help pull money to my favorite causes, but you have been deep on the inside.
Yes, I would say that is where I have been. Yes.
Everybody, have a great day. Have a great day. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Bye.
great day.